Hello, everybody. So, welcome back to the second installment of Student Saturday. So, we have a big special guest today, and we'll mention her in a few minutes, but we have a confusing way of introducing all the hosts, so I'm just going to go down the line like we usually do. I'm Gavin Ray, no Mitchell Urban today, Jaelyn Bray, then we have Isaac Gray and Owen Kensky. And now, before we start, like always, we're going to talk about the audition. You can go over to the Instagram at Musicians List Arts to get that information. So, we're of course going to introduce our guest today. So, her name is Kenzie Kirk. She's the drum major of O'Fallon Township. And I'm going to hand it off to you to talk about just the overall experiences as a musician and drum major.
Yeah, so I started with marching band my freshman year. I played clarinet, and I had done gymnastics all up until then. So, like, for my whole life, I was a gymnast, and I quit gymnastics for marching band. I kind of wanted a new start, you know. And so I marched my freshman year, absolutely loved it. So much more than gymnastics, actually. And then I marched my sophomore year, clarinet, again. And I also was a section leader. I was lucky enough to be a section leader as a sophomore. And then I auditioned for drum major my junior year, and here I am.
Nice. Okay, well, you know what? We'll go right into the questions then. Okay, so I'll go first. So, Kenzie, how was it getting to be a drum major? You are the drum major of a great group. Isaac and I had the opportunity to perform against you in 2018. So just how was it, what was the opportunity like to lead that group?
It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I was actually super hesitant to audition for drum major because I loved marching so much. Marching band is my absolute favorite thing to do. So I didn't want to give up marching and performing for something I didn't necessarily know that I was going to like. So it was a really big decision for me to audition. But I talked to several people. I talked to my band director, I talked to previous band majors, I talked to my parents, and I ended up auditioning. So I'm so happy I did because it was absolutely amazing. And I can't even put it into words how awesome it was. I think one thing that stuck out about this position and this experience was that it put me out of my comfort zone a lot. Being a section leader, you're kind of working one-on-one with the people in your section, but being a drum major, I was put outside my comfort zone a lot. I remember one moment specifically was when our first day of band in June, actually, me and one of my other drum majors, Emily, we were with the Woodwinds in music by ourselves, and we had no idea what we were doing, and we were just told to figure it out, and we did. But I think with getting put outside your comfort zone, it comes with growth. I feel in this position I grew so much as a leader and an individual, so I'm very thankful with this drum major experience that I had this year that I was able to grow as a person like that. So yeah.
That's nice. So I know Isaac and I are running to be Tarpon drum majors, and I went to this drum major academy camp over the summer, and I was offered a job there. And it does push you out of your comfort zone. Just to talk in front of maybe just a few people definitely pushes you out of your comfort zone. And I guarantee Jaelyn and Owen can definitely agree if they've ever just done a public speaking thing. It's very overwhelming at first, but you get a hang of it. So Isaac, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, so you can answer this with anything you feel like. You can be conducting, talking to the band, whatever you want. But what is your favorite thing about being a drum major?
So I have two things. One kind of serious and one kind of less serious. But on a serious note, I would say my favorite thing about being a drum major was definitely just the feeling of conducting in a competition. Performing, you get in a competition, you get a sort of feeling the adrenaline rushing, but conducting is a different feeling. Just the sound or the feeling of the music hitting you and the adrenaline you get. I know for me, the whole time I'm conducting during a competition, I'm I have the biggest smile on my face. It's just an awesome feeling, and I absolutely love it. But On a less serious note, I would definitely say my favorite thing was getting super close with my other drum majors that we had. They're Austin, Mirabelle, and Emily. And through this leadership position, I was able to become super close with them. And they are some of my closest friends now. So I am very thankful for that. And so, yeah, those are probably like my two favorite things about being a drum major.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. I had the privilege of conducting at a crossman camp, and just when the band hits you, you have this feeling of like this great pride kind of, and it just kind of takes over your body. And then obviously you have to control that at some times.
Yes.
Because you don't want to let it carry away, and then your maybe tempo drags or rushes or something. But I mean, you still get this really exciting feeling that kind of just rushes through.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
So this was Mitchell's question, but I'll ask it on behalf of him. And so at Tarpon, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about our process. So, and you probably already know, but Tarpon, we do a piece. We conduct a segment of a piece that usually is our joint ensemble piece, and it was gonna be Incheon this year. We conduct a segment and we give a speech in front of the whole ensemble, and then we go to the color guard and the percussion and do the same thing, except without conducting. So how's your audition process like? What does that entail?
So I'm going to talk about our audition process at least last year, because this year it was a little different because, it had to be all virtually or online and stuff. So last year, basically what we had to do was we have to answer 2 essay questions. I think they are, why do you want this position, and why do you think they should give us this position? So short little essays. And then we have to get 2 letters of recommendation from, I think, teachers at our school. So that's all before the audition. And then the second part is an interview, and then with our band directors. And then next we had to conduct the Star Spangled Banner in front of our concert band that we were in for that semester. And then we had to conduct our 4 memorized tempos in front of the band as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was. But I would say for me, last year, conducting the Star Spangled Banner in front of a band, that was my first time conducting in front of anybody. I look back at videos of me conducting during then, and it was tragic. But it definitely was super nerve-wracking because of the little experience I had, but it was my first time getting put outside my comfort zone and everything. So I got a little bit of a taste of what it actually was actually in the audition. So that was good. But yeah, I know some bands, I think at Tarpon, isn't it the students choose the leadership? Isn't it voting or something?
Yes.
It's voting, but I would say ultimately the directors get final say.
Okay, so here, our directors and staff have the say, and I don't think students get any input. There's no voting or anything. So I don't know if that's different than a lot of groups, but that's just how it is here. So yeah.
Here, I have a different question before I hand it off to Owen. Isaac, do you know how Broken Arrow auditions drum majors?
From what I heard, it is around what you were talking about, Kenzie, where they do an interview type process. I do believe there is voting involved as well, though. Obviously, they do have 5 drum majors.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that they select at least 2 junior drum majors every year, so that the cycle keeps going, and then they have those upper people that have been there the most, so that they can kind of help the 2 or 3 juniors that are coming in.
Okay, so I'll hand it off to Owen to ask his question.
So if you were to put yourself in a DCI group or audition for a DCI group, what instrument would you choose to play or march?
So I play clarinet, so obviously those instruments are not in DCI. So I would probably choose baritone because my sister marches baritone and she plays trombone in concert band. So I would have her teach it. And I physically cannot make a sound on a trumpet or a mellophone, so those are like out of the question. And then tuba, I'm like 5'1", so I'm not sure that would work out very well. So I think by process of elimination, and drumline and like all that, I don't understand any of it. I'm just going to be quite honest. So I think by process of elimination, I think baritone would be my choice.
That makes me sad. Mellophones are the best. Come on.
I know. I've tried. It just doesn't work.
Hey, at least she said she knows. Okay, well, Jaelyn, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, so what DCI group would you love to be a drum major for?
So, it would definitely be Phantom Regiment because O'Fallon kids, that's generally where they audition first when auditioning for a drum corps. And their head conductor right now, Claire Wilcox, was my head drum major my senior year or my freshman year. She was a head drum major my freshman year at O'Fallon. So I think it would just be cool to like follow in her footsteps, you know, like she was a drum major at O'Fallon, then at a conductor at Phantom Regiment, so I think it would be cool to just follow her and whatever. So yeah.
Nice. So I'm gonna hand it off to you, Kenzie. If you have any questions you'd like to ask us, you can go on ahead.
Oh gosh. I don't really have anything off the top of my head. I don't know.
If you think of some, we can go on and do that at the end. So we were gonna go through your show musically, but you know, the softwares cost a lot of money, so
yeah,
we're not worrying about those right now. So I want you to talk us through parts of your show that you enjoyed, and maybe the CEO, when he's editing, he could put the segment in or link a segment video. But like, tell us about your favorite sections of your show.
So, I would probably say, like, there are two parts that were my favorite. So, I really enjoyed our opener. It just was different. There was a part, like, at the end of our opener, I was on side 2 of the field. So, all the band came over, like, they all marched over to my side of the field. So, I finally got, like, the sound hitting me, and that was probably one of my favorite parts. And then the ending was another one of my favorites because towards the end, the band all turned around and they were all playing to the backfield, and all of our blocks were in towers and they all moved to the center. The guard moved them to the center, and the band was just moving in and out through them. And once all the blocks got moved into the center, the whole band turned around and like hit you with sound. And then at the end, all the blocks fell down. So I think just like musically and visually, it was definitely, that was my favorite part.
Nice. So I really wish we could have gotten to go through it musically, because I've only seen your show once, and I wanted to, you know, put it into the podcast for the CEO, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
I'll ask the other two questions since Mitchell's not here. So first one is, if you could be in any other BOA group, O'Fallon Township does not exist in this universe, and that's what Mitchell and I do usually. Like, we just eliminate Tarpon and Carmel. What group would you want to be in?
So I would definitely choose Blue Springs, because I think what I love the most about O'Fallon is that I think we have like a unique style to our shows, and they're not necessarily what everybody else is doing. And I think Blue Springs kind of has the same type of thing. I remember watching them. We went to their competition my freshman year in 2017, and that was like one of our first competitions. So I had like no idea what to expect, and I remember getting the opportunity to watch them rehearse. And then later in the night, I watched them perform, and that show is still absolutely one of my favorites of all time. And so I think I can see that they have like a unique style to them too. So I absolutely love that about them. So yeah, I would definitely choose Blue Springs.
Okay. That's surprising to me. I don't hear, like, I've
Really?
asked people just personally, like, what groups they'd be in. They would say, like, a lot of Texas groups, but that's interesting. I've never heard Blue Springs, but Blue Springs is a unique group.
I love them.
I liked performing against them in 2018. It was a great pleasure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, our final question of the interrogation segment. Any other instruments you wish you could learn? Not baritone. No, baritone doesn't count now.
Yeah, so I would have to say saxophone. And there's like a funny story behind that because at O'Fallon, we start like the instrument learning process in 5th grade. And so I went in wanting to play saxophone. And I went to go try saxophone and I was able to make a sound on it. And I mean, I'd say I was pretty good. But as I was walking to try clarinet, I got like super lightheaded and like the room started spinning. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not the instrument for me. So luckily clarinet ended up working out. So I would say saxophone because I'm hoping that I wouldn't get lightheaded now, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was the Lord saying, "Hey, go to the next one. Next slide, please."
Exactly.
So now we're gonna let you tell any stories you have. You can tell as many as you'd like. Entertain us here.
So I have one that's kind of about our show itself, and then 2 kind of silly ones from the season. But I wanted to talk about our blocks from our show. So at the beginning of the season, it was just like we had 90 red blocks and they were going to be in the show, and that was that. And we kind of just had to figure out how to use them. And so at the beginning of the season, we started noticing there was going to be a problem. And it was that what happens when one person isn't there to move a block? And at first, I remember at band camp, they sat us all down and they were like, if you're not going to be there, if you're going to the bathroom, if you're going somewhere that's not on the field during rehearsal, you need to tell the other people who touched the block, that same block, that you're not going to be there. Well, that was fine when we were learning, like, the beginning of the show. But what happens at competitions when someone's not there? Or when, like, we're doing a full run and someone's not there? So we ran into that problem. Because once we, like, learned our whole show, we noticed that about upwards of, like, one person could touch about 10 different blocks during the show. That's 10 blocks that were just left somewhere in the field. So we had to come up with a solution. Because I remember we were performing at one of the football games, and our band director had to, like, go out and, like, grab random blocks because people, like, were marching backwards and we're gonna run into them. So we had to figure out how to, like, get the blocks that were not needed off the field. Luckily, we had someone who was very smart in our band. His name is Nathan, and he was a sophomore this year. And he spent hours and days trying to figure out a program that we could use to figure this problem out. So he came up with this, like, Excel spreadsheet thing. It took him a long time to, like, get it all to work. But basically, by the end, he could just plug in, like, clarinet 22 wasn't here, and it would take out, at the beginning, all the blocks that person touched. And it's a lot more blocks than you would think. I remember right before we performed at Iowa, someone wasn't going to perform. We were literally waiting to go on. And, like, if we wouldn't have had that program, that would have been very, very bad. But luckily, Nathan was just able to, like, press in the numbers, and then we had to take some more blocks out. But we, like, if you ever watch our show, all those blocks and moving on towers are supposed to be 4 high. But they were never all 4 high because we would always have someone not there or something. And that it was a lot more blocks than you would think. So that was kind of our difficulty from this year, but we eventually got through it, and I'm so thankful for Nathan that he was able to figure that out. But some people just, like, watch our show and they're like, oh, red blocks, but I'm like, you don't realize how hard it was. But yeah, it was fun trying to figure that out. But I think my other two stories were, so this one's kind of like a funny one for our whole band. So we were competing at a local competition in Missouri, Fort Zumwalt North. They had a competition at their school. And so we performed last in finals, I think. So it was freezing. It was so cold. So they weren't going to just have us sit there in the cold. So what our band directors decided for us to do was they took all of us, our whole band, we all loaded our buses, and we all went to the mall in between prelims and finals. It was literally so much fun. We were all still I was still in my drum major uniform. People were still in their uniforms. We were just walking around. So that was fun. It was just letting 200 plus kids go at a mall at night in between prelims and finals. It was really fun. But then this is kind of embarrassing on my behalf, but right, so we went to the Indy Super Regional this year, and so we had to leave super early that morning, and I set multiple alarms because I had to do my hair and makeup for drum major and stuff. I was all packed, luckily, but I set my alarm to wake up super early. Well, turns out I didn't hear my alarm, and my sister, she's a freshman, she also didn't hear her alarm. So we were supposed to leave at 6:30. I think we got a call at 6:20, and I was still in bed, and I live 10 minutes away from the school. So luckily, they could not get a hold of any of us, me, my sister, my parents. So I think my friend's mom ended up having to come and knock on my parents, on our door to try and wake somebody up. But luckily, I was able to wake up, and I got on the bus. We were only a little bit behind schedule, but yeah. So that was my story for being late to being on the bus for a competition. Luckily, everything worked out, but I will make sure to hear my alarm next time.
I thought the bus was going to drive in front of your house. The bus just parks there in front of your house, come on, we're waiting for you.
Exactly.
Is there any other stories or any questions you have?
I can tell one more. I had one more, but so we competed at Iowa this year, and that was a new BOA competition. No BOA competitions had been in that dome before, and we went to that competition because it was in a dome. It was inside, and for our shows, that works better, especially because those 4 block towers fall easily in the wind and stuff. So we went to Iowa, and so we had no idea what the sound was going to be like inside. And we kind of know from St. Louis and Indy because we perform there pretty much every year. But Iowa was new. So our show at that time, I'm pretty sure started with the drums in the back. Or if it started in the front, we changed it throughout the year. But I remember just conducting in that dome was literally the hardest thing ever because you could not hear everything that you were used to. And it was literally so scary. But once you got the drums in, it was so much better. But luckily, Austin, our head drum major, he was a rock star and he got us through it. But I was just watching him. I'm please, someone make sure this works out. But luckily, it all worked out okay. But I just think that dome was a little bit different than some of the other domes we had competed in.
Right. There was a 12-foot wall up in front, and your speakers just hit the wall and came right back. It was awful.
We had to change what we did there for finals. So prelims, it was just it was hitting the wall. Mm-hmm. So what we did was took some of our leftover red blocks and put our speakers up on them so they aimed up a little bit. So, we had to figure out that too, but our drum majors' podiums were pushed up all the way against that wall because there was no room. But it was interesting.
I think that's how like Isaac and I felt in 2018 when Tarpon finally went back to Orlando, and we dropped the Atlanta regional since they took it away. It was just expensive because of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and I remember getting off that field and looking at all of our fellow like peers' shoes, and people's shoes are just melted off their feet, and everyone's dying because we performed at like 1 p.m. in the heat. Like, it's like the peak of the day.
Wow.
It's so crazy. And I was like, I remember performing, I was only in part 2 when we were doing Shostakovich. I'm looking up and I'm like, I feel I'm going to pass out. I'm probably going to duck behind a prop at some point. I made it through the ballad, okay? I got through the ballad, and that's a little time of rest, so I'm like, I'll get to the end. It's fine. So that's sort of how Orlando's crazy. Like Broken Arrow, I think they felt it this year when they came. It was rough.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely with sound though. Oh, sorry.
Oh no.
Definitely.
Sorry, what you said.
Definitely with sound. Tarpon practices in Cincinnati, Ohio, in a bubble dome. And if you don't know what that is, that's where Cincinnati University, their football team and their training facility is. And it's basically this huge arena, kind of. It's an air compressed arena. And we walk into it. It's the best. It's so cool. It's one of our favorite places to go. And when we play, it's all of our drum majors and our percussion, our front ensemble is always up against each other. And basically, our drum majors, like, their heads are touching the wall.
Yeah.
At the top. So, but when we play, the sound always reverts back to us, and it's a huge dome, so it's always coming back to us. That's like indie, but like times 500 inside. And like the sound, I know from just playing, it's awful to hear a sound and look and watch and try to figure out and determine which one I'm going with. Because you can't cross the ensemble when you're playing on the 0-yard line and the brass is playing on the 15-yard line on the opposite side of the field.
It's like, yeah, because I remember Bubble Dome. You could see Mr. Ford and, like, Frank on top of this, like, crane-looking thing. And they're, like, bent over because the top of the thing starts cutting into the top of the dome. And they're just sitting there, like, slouched over, like, barely having any room. And they're like, play louder! It's really funny to see him sitting there. Well, you know, I guess we'll call it there. So, Kenzie, I appreciate you coming on. I think all the other hosts do as well. So, thank you. And, you know,
thank you.
We'll call it there. So I can't really do the normal outro. So that was Kenzie Kirk, Jaelyn Bray, Gavin Ray, Isaac Gray, and Owen Kensky without Mitchell Urban. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.